You know, there is a story of a little girl named Dana, who often visited her grandfather, who is a pastor of a small town in boondocks in Michigan. And this small town, every day at noon, siren went off. It was installed generations ago to let factory workers know it is time to go home and get your lunch. But some reason, for whatsoever reason, Dana was so scared of siren. So the pastor, the grandfather, thought about curing her fear of siren, and he told Dana, whenever siren goes off for Dana, you stand up and tell everybody, go home and get your lunch. So it worked. Every time siren went off, and Dana stood up and yelled, go home and get your lunch. And one Sunday, during the service, preacher, the grandpa, was wound up and preaching up a storm, and siren went off. You can imagine. Dana stood up and turned around to the congregation, now go home, get your lunch. And some people, as a matter of fact, gathered up their things and left. Don't get on any idea. I know some of you already thinking about your gourmet lunch and fellowship hours and delicious food and talk stories, but bear with me. Today's message will be short, but very important, and it is very practical. The title of this week's study is what? Imitating Christ. Some of you say, well, Pastor, didn't we do that last week? The week before? And the week before? Yes, we did that. And we are going to do it 12 weeks. Again and again. As a matter of fact, the whole year, whole of your life, imitating Christ. That is our final goal. That is the way to kick it up a notch to my spiritual journey, maturity. Got it? So, in this today's passage we just read, it talks about how Jesus was sought for and wanted for by the people. I mean, after he healed Simon Peter's mother-in-law, and the whole town gathered at the door and to be healed by Jesus, touched by him and killed by him. And probably this was a time Jesus wanted to tell everybody, go home and get your lunch. But Jesus, what did he do? He went off to a solitary place. To do what? To pray. So this morning, I want us to ponder upon how to imitate Christ-like prayer life. Discipline. How do we discipline to pray like Jesus Christ? Got it? All right. First of all, why do we need to pray? Why should you pray? Forgiveness? Sin? Amen. Communication with God. All right? What else? Why should you pray? It is very important to Christian work, important to your spiritual maturity. And prayer connects us with the greatest power source. The energy, prayer gives us energy to live life worthy of God's call on each one of us. You see, when the disciples went to look for Jesus, and they said what? Everybody is looking for you. And Jesus said, let's go back? No, go the other town. To do what? To preach. And he says that is his primary reason why he came. You see, imitating Christ, his primary reason he came was to preach the gospel. My primary reason as a pastor is to preach the gospel. And your primary reason, mission in the whole wide world in your life is what? Preach the gospel. You see, we are imitating Jesus Christ. So, Jesus, in order for him to focus on preaching the good news to the whole wide world, he needed what? To pray. He was bombarded with sick people, people who needed him, cared by him, touched by him. And he was exhausted. He was needed take a time out to refresh, reorder his priorities. If the Son of God, the mighty God, needed take time out to pray, what makes you think you and I don't need to pray? We need to pray. You see, when we live life as we go, it seems to be very normal. All of a sudden, you get into crisis. You're hit by problems of others or curve as you drive down to the road and you hit a chokehold size like a lanai. And you wonder how you can get out of it. If you are a prayer warrior, you know when you are in a chokehold, and you know you're not alone. You wait upon the Lord to receive strength, then you know how to get out. You know, you trust God will guide you out. But if you haven't built up your prayer life, you panic. You focus on that big size like a Lanai Island. Big problem, focus on that, you panic. Sometimes you're stuck in a rut for a while because you don't have strength to get out. That's when you got to remember, yell at yourself, go home, get your prayer, not lunch. Take time out to pray. You know, if everybody has a different time to pray. I mean, mine is, I work better and I am more clear early in the morning. And my daughter is in the evening. And some of you are during lunchtime all day long. Whatsoever it works, you gotta find the time to pray. And one of the lady, she is known as a prayer warrior, and told me that when she got remarried with the 3 children of her own and the 3 children of her husband and 6 children, she couldn't find a time to pray. And she says, you know what? You cannot find the time. You have to make time.